Welcome to the Israel Ramos Show, where I bring up topics that I feel that are important, and I try to give you the best information to the best of my ability to try to make a difference in today's changing world. Today we're going to be discussing to be careful not to base your happiness on any relationship and why. And today I have Tom Pagano with me. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you, Israel. It's good to be here again.
And it's always good to have you. I want to start off by saying that it's great to be in love. I remember when I was in love with this young lady, and she made me feel so special, and I always tried my best to make her feel special. And everywhere we went, whether we went to the movies or we walked, or we went for a drive, or we shared lunch or dinner or breakfast, it was always such a pleasure to listen to what she had to say about her life, and she would share with me about, I would share with her about my life, and we just got along really well. But, as time went by, sometimes you go your separate ways, things change, and that's fine. And, when we've been with a person for a long time and we never got to marry that person, it's never easy letting go. It's always painful. But I loved myself enough and loved her enough to let her go and just cherish the memories and keep in touch if it was okay, unless she moved on and her boyfriend felt uncomfortable, that's fine. But at least I will always cherish the memories that I had with Dorothy. Her name was Dorothy. Such a wonderful young lady, such an intelligent young lady also. And I thank her for the memories, and that's what we're supposed to do. But unfortunately, some people, when the other person doesn't want to be with them, they don't always handle it right. Some people commit suicide. Some people have this attitude, if I can't have you, nobody will, which is really sad and destructive and evil. Because why would you want to hurt someone who doesn't want to be with you anymore? You should cherish the moments and honor that person, and you should love that person enough and yourself enough to let them go. You should want the best for them. You should not feel that if I can't have them, nobody will. That is not love. That's just being pure selfish and evil. And this is the reason I'm bringing up this topic. Never base your happiness on someone. Because what are you going to do when that person fails you? Are you going to lose your mind? Are you going to stop eating? Are you going to stop living? Are you going to stop being who you are, pursuing your dreams? No. Again, you have to love that person enough to let them go. And you got to love yourself enough to let them go, because that's what true love. And just be grateful for the times and the memories that you guys shared and the love. Be grateful that for some time you had somebody to share special moments with. And the reason I say that it's very important not to base your happiness on a person, because sometimes people fall in love for different reasons. And you have to be willing to accept that. You cannot think that you own anybody, or you're going to control someone or force someone to love you. Me personally, I would not want no one to love me or stay with me in a relationship if they feel like it's time to let go. I want to love that person enough to let him go. I want the best for that person. Yes, letting go is never easy. Of course it hurts. Of course you're going to cry. And you may not feel like eating that much. You may fall into depression. But that's why it's so important not to base your happiness on a person. Now, people will fail you time to time. That's another reason why I wanted to bring up this topic and deal with the issues. It's because people will fail you time to time. And it could be anyone. It could be your mother, your father, your brother, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband. It could be anybody. But one thing we need to realize is we have to love ourselves enough that if someone is not validating or appreciating us, to let them go and say bye-bye. We have to love them alone to say that. We have to love ourselves enough to say that. But people who become obsessed with a person can become very dangerous to that other person, because that's not love. There's a big difference between loving somebody enough to let them go than to be obsessed with a person where you cannot let them go. And that's why it's so important that we are kind to ourselves and we love ourselves. And we have to remember there's too many men and too many women for us to lose our minds for one person. Now, isn't that so true, Tom?
Yes, it is true, Israel. You touched on. I was listening to you. I was thinking about that '80s song "Love Is a Battlefield" by Pat Benatar, and it's actually true. Love is a battlefield. It's so complex, and there's a lot of learning when we find that person. When we feel like we want to be with that person so much, the feeling's so strong that all we really do is think about them, and I guess that's what being in love. One of the things that happens, I guess, for many people. But we also have to realize is that when we find someone, that special person, and we never really know who it's going to be, and we have to realize that we can't lose ourselves and become someone else. If someone loves us, they come into our lives accepting us as we are. And they bring baggage, and we bring baggage into the relationship. We unpack our bags, and we do what we can to maintain a healthy, loving relationship. And it's not always easy.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's never easy letting go. But you have to love yourself enough to let that person go, like I said earlier. And you have to love and cherish that person enough to let them go. And just cherish the memories and the moments that you had with that person. And if you really love that person, and if you really love them, you want the best for them. Like I told a girl years ago, I love you enough to let you go. And I wish you the best because I really loved her. That's what real love is. Like Barry Manilow sang in one of his songs, letting go is just another way to say I'll always love you so. I love that because he's expressing in that song that letting go, I love you enough to let you go. And that's what it's really all about. Not trying to control someone. I saw this movie with Julia Roberts, which I met Julia Roberts when I used to be a yellow New York City cab driver. She's such a wonderful human being. It was nice to meet her. And she did a movie called Sleeping with the Enemy about a woman who was married to this man who was very controlling. And she just wanted out of the relationship. How can a woman want to love a man or love a man that's controlling? And what happens is a woman becomes afraid of that man when he's trying to control her every move, who she's texting, who she's calling. That is not love. If you're in a relationship like that, it's time to let them go, because that's not what that is what a relationship is meant to be. It's controlling, and you don't want to control anybody. That is not love. That's why it's so important not to base your happiness on anyone. Like I said earlier, because you do not own that person and that person does not own you. But you have to be willing to let people go. What happens when you base your happiness on a person? The problem with that is that if all your love and identity and who you are was based on you being in a relationship with that guy or that girl, that young lady or that young man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when that person lets you go? or that person doesn't want to be with you, are you going to lose your mind? Are you going to want to kill yourself? No way. No way you want to do that. You want to entertain those ideas. Why? Because you have to love yourself enough to let that person go. You have to also love that person, love yourself, and love that person enough to let him go. But unfortunately, the people that base their happiness on other people don't react that way. I mean, I've heard horror stories where men telling women, if I can't have you, nobody will, and they wind up killing the person, which is really a sad tragic. That was never love. That was obsession. And that was controlling. All that person wanted to do was control. And you can't do that. You can't put a person in a cage and expect them to that's not love. They're never going to be
to stay with you. You know, you can't expect them to stay with you. You're right. And you know, it's funny, you mentioned obsession and controlling, and you know, if I can't have you, nobody can. It's very frightening. I remember when I was 18, I went to go see a movie. It was called Fatal Attraction, and it really startled me. It made me so upset to see this. Glenn Close played a woman who wouldn't let go of this married man, who didn't. It was just a one-night stand type of thing, and she lied to him. She said she was pregnant, and she wasn't, and she broke into their home, and he got the daughter a rabbit, and she boiled the rabbit, and she scratched threw acid. She threw acid on all over his car, and at the end it was so horrific. He wound up murdering her because she went after his wife. And Michael Douglas played the man. It was just frightening. It traumatized me to some degree, and I thought, oh my God, I never want to meet a woman like Glenn Close.
The character, and that's so true. It's so true that we cannot think that we're going to control somebody. That is not love. Not at all. That's why if you hear about a lot of famous people, and I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to badmouth anyone. No one is perfect, but it happens a lot with a lot of famous people who go from relationship to relationship and relationship. Why? Because based on the things that I've read about them, the relationship starts with a sexual attraction, and when you're sexually attracted to someone, you want to get intimate with that person, and that's a big mistake because you know nothing about that person. You could get intimate sexually with a person and realize that you just had sex with a monster, because just because they look good on the outside or they may feel good sexually, that doesn't mean that they're all there mentally. So that's why relationships don't work, you know, and also the physical attraction. You may be physically attracted to her or him, but you can't go by that. I honestly believe, based on my experiences, that it's better to get to know the person first, because you may be sexually attracted to them, physically attracted to them, and when you rush into getting physically physical with them, and you get intimate physically, sexually, you're going to regret it. And that's why, and you rush into marriage. I mean, you only known the person 3 months, and already you want to marry the person. All respect to people that have done it and are successful, that's fine.
Right.
But that is not always the case. In my opinion, it's always better to wait at least a year. Give it a year. Get to know that person. What if that person that you want to marry is very disrespectful to their parents? Do you honestly think that a woman that's disrespectful to her parents, her mother or father or both, is going to make a good mother? I doubt it very seriously. Or do you honestly think that a man who's disrespectful to his parents, mother or father or both, is going to make a good father, I doubt it very seriously. So get to know that person. Make sure that they're respectful and appreciative to the parents that bring them to this world. Because being grateful is so important. And when you don't rush into things, they come out better because you get to know who in the world you're going to marry. That is so important. And I learned that as a teenager, not to rush into relationships. Get to know the person. Don't rush to want to go to bed with them because it's wrong. It's really, really wrong. You know, lust only leads to worse things. There's nothing good that come out of lust. If all you're basing your relationship is based on how many people you want to go to bed with, then you know nothing about relationships. You could never make anybody happy if that's the kind of mentality that you have. You know, I've had friends that were bragging to me about how many women they've had, and I said, well, you are a poor soul because that's not the way it was meant to be. That's not the way God meant it to be. We're supposed to get to know people, respect them, cherish them, because that woman is somebody's daughter, or that man is somebody's son. You know, we have to honor and respect people, and do not rush because the guy, he seems like a nice guy, he drives a nice car, he works out. That doesn't mean a damn thing. The guy may turn out to be a monster. He may turn out to be very unfaithful. The same with the woman. You know, and titles, don't go by titles just because they have a nice title. That doesn't mean anything either in today's world. Because we don't know the things that people are watching, are listening to. You know, there's a lot of people that have filled themselves with garbage. That's why it's dangerous to be watching pornography, because pornography doesn't teach you anything real. It's all fake. Life is not about you being in the bedroom, and cameras have no business being in the bedroom. It's better if you watch cartoons or animation or a nice, pleasant movie where you don't have a negativity. It has a great message than you to watch or listen to garbage that's going to corrupt your thinking. You know, the Bible says as a person thinks, that's who they become. If you believe or you expose your mind to garbage, then you're going to think garbage. Men that are constantly being jealous of their wife and falsely accuse them, those men usually are watching pornography. The pornography is corrupting their mind. They start thinking that when they're not with their girlfriend or wife, they start thinking that she's unfaithful to him. And if a person is unfaithful to you in real life, it's going to hurt. But you have no right to put your hands on the woman that was unfaithful to you or the man. As much as it hurts, you have to love yourself enough to walk away from that relationship. You have no right to put your hands on that person. No right. Nothing good is going to come out of it. You will never own a person, even if you're legally married to them. Marriage is a piece of paper that has to be honored. It's a contract that could be broken anytime. And if a woman, if she has her reasons why she doesn't want to be married to that man, she has a right to divorce him. Just like a man, if he feels like the woman is disrespecting him, not appreciating him, he has a right to divorce her. Of course, I am a Christian, and the Bible teaches that God hates marriage, but I don't believe God wants you to be in an abusive relationship. God is also not a God of confusion. God is not going to tell you, okay, stay with that person, even though they're being very disrespectful or they're cursing the world out of you. No way. God wants you to be happy, and doesn't want you to tolerate someone not honoring the marriage. And the way you honor the marriage is you trust the person and you're faithful to that person. Now, if you're unfaithful to that person and they find it in their hearts to forgive you and stay with you, and you prove to that person, you go to counseling with that person, then that's different. You guys work it out. But I'll tell you the truth, that is not an easy thing to do. Because me personally, if my wife was unfaithful to me, it would be too painful for me to stay in that relationship. I would, I'm not saying she's like that, she's not like that, but I'm just talking hypothetical. If you find yourself whether you're a man or a woman, and you find yourself in an abusive, unfaithful relationship, you have every right to break that contract. A contract should only be honored when the person honors the contract, and that's loving and cherishing, and trusting and forgiving, and also being faithful to that person. That's why, something else I want to add to: don't base your happiness on anyone.
Yes, it's very important not to base yourself, base your happiness on somebody else. And somebody else can. It's impossible for someone to always make you happy 100% all of the time. And if you have that expectation, you are going to be let down
and disappointed.
Yes, and for myself, I have to check myself and say, well, you know what, this person let me down, and I have to move on. And resentments are expectations waiting. Expectations are resentments waiting to happen. And when I expect someone to make me happy and they don't follow through, oh boy, I could be very negative and forget that this person doesn't owe me anything. I was the one that needed to make myself happy from the get-go. And that's the problem with a lot of relationships. I see that people have this expectation that you go into a relationship and your partner needs to make you happy all the time, and that's just unrealistic thinking.
And that's where the controlling behavior starts. Like Tom said, when you feel like they have to meet your expectation, that's why it's so important to get to know a person better and allow that person to be themselves. That's why you are involving them. You do not own that person. You did not make that person. God made them. You have no right to think you're going to control that person. And you have no business constantly being obsessed with that person. Who texted you? Who called you? That's not love anymore. If somebody treats you like that, it's time to cut them loose. You should be the same way when you first met the person. That's why it's so important to get to know a person, because people can easily put up an act in the beginning, especially people that have been married. If a guy's been married 3 or 4 times, you can't tell me that it was the other person. He must have done something wrong to be married so many times. And a lot of times we rush into marriage. Don't rush into a relationship. Get to know the person better. And again, basing your happiness on a person is very, very foolish and is a big mistake. We should love people. It's nice to have people in our life, but not to the point that if the person doesn't want to be in your life anymore, you're going to go crazy. You're going to lose your mind. Like I said, it's nice to be in love. It's nice to have people in your life who love you, respect you, and cherish you, and don't try to control you, and trust you, and are faithful to you. It's so important to be faithful. And it's wrong when I see guys walking with a girl and then they turn their head and they look at another girl, another woman passing by. That is not love and respect. It's wrong. It's disrespectful. Now, if like I said earlier, it's not easy letting go of someone that has been a part of your life in such a great way. It's hard. You're going to go through pain. You're going to cry. But you have to love yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I have to love myself enough to let the person go. Yes, like I said, it's never easy. Find a support group. There's some support groups out there that you can look in the internet, whatever it is. If it's Alcohol Anonymous, drugs, just Google it. Just Google it. And it's important that if you feel you can't do it on your own, that's fine. There's a lot of support groups out there that you can Google, do information that will help you. Sometimes we need, let's say you're dealing with depression. There's some great support groups out there that will help you, and support you and help you go through that depression. Or let's say it's alcohol or drugs, or you're breaking up. You can't seem to function because it's this person, you gave so much into the relationship that it's hard for you to function because that person doesn't want to be with you. And Google it. There's groups out there that will support you, will help you. And that's basically it. It is not a smart thing to base your happiness on anyone, because there's too many people out there, too many men, too many women, a lot of beautiful men and women that you will find. So why lose your mind over one person when you got billions of people, you got billions of men and women who will treat you the way you deserve to be treated, who will validate you the way you deserve to be validated, and listen to you the way you need to be listened to, and appreciate who you are. Remember one thing, you are important, and you have to believe it. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am important, and I deserve better. Don't tolerate people trying to control you, or not showing you gratitude, or being unfaithful to you. That should never be tolerated. If people are not going to love you enough to honor you, respect you, be faithful to you, and stop trying to control you by looking at your phone and who you call and who you text, that is not love. That's controlling. And for those people that find it hard to deal with a breakup, do what you like. Let's say you like acting. Keep pursuing your acting career. Take more acting lessons, singing lessons. Take up swimming, cooking. The Bible says you overcome evil by doing good. Be careful what you watch. Maybe if you're watching pornography, stop watching pornography. Ted Bundy was an educated man, and I'm not talking about the actor Al Bundy. That's the character from television. He was a comedian. I'm talking about Ted Bundy, who was a person that would go wear a cast and drop his books on purpose, and he would lure women, and they would feel sorry for him because he had a fake cast on. He would bring them park the car in a deserted place in a campus, and then he would put them in the car, hit them in the head, and chop them up in little pieces. Just because a person is educated or has a title, that doesn't mean anything. You really got to get to know who this person is. Don't think because a person has a title, they're educated, they're not capable of committing crimes. Because I would imagine you listeners already know this, but this is just a reminder, because it's good to be reminded, and that is the purpose of my show, is to remind you of things that you may already know, but you need to be reminded. And the reason I try to deal with these issues by bringing up different topics is to try to make a difference. I may not be able to change the world, but I will try to make a difference to give you the best information to my ability by bringing up these topics and discussing these issues that are so important. Remember that you are important and you deserve the very best, especially if you are a good person and you're not a person that you go around murdering people, because murderers have no place in this world as far as I'm concerned. Nobody has a right to murder anyone. If you really love a person, you want to see them be happy. You have to be able to love them enough to say thank you for the beautiful memories. I love you enough to let you go, because that's what true love is. Like Barry Manilow sang in his song. Letting go is just another way to say I'll always love you. So, what's the name of that song again?
We had the right love at the wrong time.
Oh, it's called Somewhere Down the Road.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Somewhere Down the Road.
What's the lyric? We had the right love at the wrong time.
Letting go is just another way to say I'll always love you so. Okay.
I never, and Ted Bundy. You mentioned Ted Bundy. Actually, that has, that's something that is beyond these poor women. They had no awareness of what was really going on. But yeah, you have to be careful. The ladies have to be careful of men in sheep's clothes,
sheep clothing,
and
but they're really wolves.
Don Juans, and people who are gonna wine them, dine them, 69 them, and all that, and it's an illusion. There's no such thing as a knight in shining armor. You're Prince Charming. You're not Snow White. Relationships are really hard work. Really hard work. And yes, there are dangerous people out there, and murdering is never good. When someone is trying to leave a relationship and they're murdered, it's horrific, and we hear it's very horrible, and we hear about stories in that sad nature all the time. It makes the newspaper articles, and people read about sad relationships and breakups, and you're right, it's hard,
tragic, a lot of tragic.
And it is tragic, very very tragic, to abuse someone and kill them, because people have a right to leave, letting go of a relationship that is toxic, that is dangerous, and that just doesn't work for anymore.
Amen to that. And we're going to wrap it up. And I'm going to wrap it up by saying that continue to be kind to yourself. Remember that you are important. You're special. God has made you unique in your own way. If everybody was the same, it'd be a boring world. And don't base your happiness on anyone. Get to know that person. Do not rush into getting intimate with a person. First, get to know who you are dating. Give it time. This way, you will not make the mistakes that a lot of men and women have made out there. And God willing, we will see you next time. And thank you for listening. And remember that you are important. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
And bye-bye.